Tonight, the presentation is on the ARISS program, and our guest speaker is Charlie, KG5QNO. And Charlie, are you there? Are you ready?
Hey there. Yes, I am ready. Are y'all ready for me?
Okay. Well, we shall turn the program over to you, and you can kick it off and get started.
Good deal. Okay. So thanks everybody in BVARC for having me on here. Basically, what I'm going to be talking about is a kind of an introduction to what Jeff and I have been working on with the ARISS contact at our school, or I should say that the ISS contact at our school. So ARISS is, of course, the organization that sets up scheduled contacts with the space station. And I just wanted to give you all a little update on where we're at with that right now. So let's see, I'm going to do a screen share if that's all right, Jeff. Let's see.
It would help a little bit if your volume would go up a little.
Okay. Let me see if I can mess with that. Give me half a sec. Okay, cool. I think I can adjust that. Oh, you know what? My mic is dying already. So I will talk louder. How about that? Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a share screen, and I just have a pretty short slideshow for y'all, and then I'm gonna open it up to questions at the end. Where's my, oh, here we go. Okay, so let me start by telling y'all a little bit about myself. My name's Charlie. I've been a teacher at St. Stephen's Episcopal School for about 6 years. And I teach the STEM program there. We call it Da Vinci Classroom during the day and Da Vinci Lab in the after school program. And we do all kinds of cool technology stuff, like computer programming. We do electronics. We do online safety, 3D design, all kinds of cool projects with the kids. So doing an ISS contact is something that I've been wanting to do for as long as I've been teaching there. Let's see, Jeff, I think it was last spring, was it, that we did, we already applied once to that. Well, I'll talk about that in a second. So the first thing I wanted to say was a big thank you to a lot of hands who have reached out to us to lend equipment, to lend advice. Everybody who's heard about this project has been really, really forthcoming with saying, you know, hey, how can I help? Do you need to borrow this gear? So I just want to say thank you. People have been so helpful so far, and I know we'll be asking for a lot more going forward as well. All right, so this is the part where I'm going to talk about the application. We turned in an application to ARISS once before. It's about 40 pages in all. And it's all talking about how are you going to make the contact work? How are you going to do education in the classroom? How are you going to promote the event in your community? How are you going to share it with the community? So that's something we've been brainstorming for a long time. And the second application round, we made it in. So St. Stephen's is going to be one of 8 schools contacting the ISS in the July to December span. and we don't even know when yet, but we know it's somewhere this fall. So we're really, really excited about that happening right here in Houston. It's going to be a really special direct contact. I should mention we are setting up the Earth station that's going to contact the ISS. All right. So one of the things that ARISS looks for is a real kind of belt and braces setup for the satellite ISS contact. They want a station with a rotator, a big Yagi antenna. They want a backup station. They want backup power, full redundancy. So we're in the process of setting that all up. The part I was really concerned about is setting up the rotator, and I wish I could see all of you in person. If you were in my classroom right now, I would ask for a show of hands that says how many people have set up a rotator, and then I would have a better idea of the crowd that I'm talking to. But this was my first time setting up an azimuth elevation rotator, and I have a little bit of background with motor controllers, and I knew this was going to be kind of a pain in the butt. So I unpacked all of the Yaesu gear and got it all set up, put it up on our mast, and it's I should say, I was going to do a quick drawing of what our setup kind of looks like right now. I feel like this is the best way for me to explain it. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to yes. So somebody created a poll. Do you have a rotator at your station? I love it. Is it okay? I guess y'all can pin me if you want to. I switched over to my document camera, and I'm just going to describe the setup for what we have right now. So let's start with the Yagi. So we have a big cross-polarized, it's a 14 element, 2 meters Yagi, okay? And then that, of course, has the coax that goes off it. It also has a polarity switcher. Okay, and then we have our rotator. So let's say it comes off this way. We have our elevation rotator, and then that's stacked on top of our azimuth rotator, and then that's stacked on top of a pole. Okay. All right. So then on here we have 2 more cables coming down. One cable for the AS rotator, and one cable for the L rotator. Okay. All right, and then these come back to our Yaesu motor controller box. And it has its little indicators, but I'll just yeah, and it's got the little switches on the front, so you can manually swing all this around. So that's great, and you can see on the front of this box what your azimuth and elevation look like. And it's pretty rock solid. You would just wire pin 1 to pin 1, pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to 2, 2 to 2, and so on and so forth. So that was actually pretty straightforward to set up. Here's where it got a little bit hairy, because I turned around the back of the box expecting to see serial port. And if you've done one of these before, you will know that the answer is no. You do not get a serial port on the back of here. You get a DC voltage or two DC voltages, and you get some control options. So we make another cable that goes to another box. And a lot of companies make these boxes. The one we're using is from Fox Delta. And that was on recommendation from K5WH. And so he's just recommended that because he's familiar with it. So the Fox Delta, what this does is it makes a serial connection to the computer. It does an ADC for the motor feedback. So ADC for position, and it also does flips the switches for the motor control. Okay, so once we have that hooked up, then that goes on USB cable, and then that plugs into the laptop computer. Okay, and there's our laptop. Okay, so on the laptop we have running SAT32 PC, which is also recommended by a number of satellite hams. And this program is great. It's awesome. Yeah. So it took me a minute to get used to it, but it's really awesome. And I had a lot of help from K5WH, Walter. He got on a Zoom meeting with me and said, okay, here's what you want to do. Delete these sats, they're not active, put these sats in, do all these settings. Here's the driver for this. And we got it all set up, except for a problem. I could not do the calibration on the Fox Delta box, and I tried over and over again. It should be easy. As it turned out, I had a wire switched. The ground wire was switched with one of the voltage feedback wires. So yeah, but now it's all good. And what's really beautiful about this is I just have it set up in my classroom, and we can watch the satellites float around. The kids can click on a satellite, and as soon as its horizon comes over us, the rotator automatically flips around and follows the satellite. It's amazing. It's amazing. So if you already have one of these stations set up, you're probably familiar with that. But if you haven't seen one in action, it's really, really cool. Okay, so let me move on here to, I'm going to talk for a moment about ham radio in the classroom. So as part of the ARISS program, it's really big part of it is doing education stuff that's related to ham radio, which I already do anyways, and I really enjoy doing it. Kids love messing with radios. They love picking up a walkie-talkie. They love hearing people calling on the radio. They love finding out that someone's call sign means they're from California or Ireland or whatever. So they're really like automatically into that stuff. Since we've been tasked with the ARISS contact, we've been doing some stuff like the ING experiment, as Jeff calls it, and I love that name. It's this idea that you can take a Yagi antenna or any dipole really, and then you make a little dipole that has a light, and it's just 2 sticks of wire. And I used an LED in the middle, and you can hold that up to your antenna that's transmitting at 1 watt. And if you get the orientation right, it'll light up your light bulb. And let's see, I have a picture of the kids doing that. So what's really fantastic about this whole process is that we are building up the station piece by piece in my classroom with the kids. Each piece that goes together, we get to mess around with it. So this is a couple of my lower elementary students, and I'm behind the camera, and I'm keying up a handy talkie on 1 watt, and they are walking around this antenna and finding out what are all the positions and orientations where they can get the light bulb to light up. Where is it bright? Where is it dim? Where does it go out? So they get to mess around with a RF field in real time, and it's like a real hands-on thing, and it's really fun. I think it's really cool. They had a lot of fun doing it. Another thing that we've been doing recently is fox hunts. I have a special way that I do fox hunts at my school. We use the FRS channels, and the reason for that is I have a bunch of walkie-talkies, and I have a bunch of 888s, and so you can see this one student is holding up a soup can that's decorated with fox, and the soup can inside of it, as you can imagine, there's a walkie-talkie, like one of those old Motorola walkie-talkies, and a Arduino that keys it up and sends out a CW signal. And I think it's putting out somewhere between 10 and 20 milliwatts. So the signal's quite small. And the kids love doing this. Right now, we pretty much just use the handy talkies with removable antennas. So they can take off the antenna to attenuate their signal and home in on the fox. Kids love it. And yeah, so going forward, we're going to be doing more fox hunts. We're organizing a weekend fox hunt at City Park, so the kids will really get to spread out and see what the signal's like when it's coming from really far away. We're going to be building small Yagi antennas. We're going to be actually moving all of our station stuff up to the roof so the kids can mess around with using it to actually talk to satellites and track satellites during our class time. And yeah, and I've kind of glossed over all of the other stuff about setting up our station, where we have to set up full redundancy. So we will have a second fully redundant station that won't have a rotator, but you all know about that, how that works, and I won't go into detail about that. So that's pretty much all of the material I have for you right now. If you want to find out more, we have a webpage up at sesh.org/ISS, and that kind of more or less has the latest info about whatever's going on. And we'll try to keep that updated as much as possible. So yeah, without further ado, I want to check in with you guys. Does anyone have any questions or comments about any of the stuff that I just talked about?
I've got a quick comment on the Ing experiment. The reason I call it that is Make Magazine has a YouTube video on with Diana Ing, who is a geek fashion designer and ham enthusiast, and she does the experiment in the YouTube video talking about how antennas work. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, has anybody ever ever done that? Like used a Yagi antenna to light up a light? It's really fun. You should do it. And it's also a great way to experiment with polarity, right? So if you have a vertically or horizontally polarized antenna, of course, if you flip your target antenna 90 degrees, you get that, I think it's like a 20 or 22 dBs of loss, and the light goes right out, and then you turn it back around and it comes back on. So it's pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. Do we have any satellite aficionados on here this evening?
I'm a wannabe. I once heard
I
above the ISS talking to an Earthbound ham. I heard her side of the conversation, the astronaut side, just with a Baofeng. Yeah, I hunted down the Earth station, found out who it was, and it turns out he worked for NASA and it was a scheduled contact. But it was cool. It was cool to hear him. I mean, it was just with a rubber duck, and they were clear as day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fun stuff. Do we have any fox hunters or people who are interested in fox hunting here?
Didn't you win the fox hunt at one of the Greater Houston Ham Fests?
I did. Oh, I did not win that one. I did. I think I won one. I did. SeaTac did one a bunch of years back now. SeaTac did one that I won. Yeah, that's good fun. They haven't set one up for a while. I've been really interested in, I don't know, stirring up interest in organizing a fox hunt, because I hear on the repeaters all the time, people are talking about like, hey, how can we get more youth involved in ham radio? How can we get kids interested? And to me, that's one of the most fun things that you can do. Kids love it because you get to go. You go outside, you're running around, you're using walkie-talkies, you're running around in the woods maybe, and they love it. And you learn so much about RF fields and what's attenuation. Like that's something that most people never ever think about until they go to engineering school or something like that. Sorry about the dog.
I wish Mike, our president, was here. He has organized fox hunts, for the Hamfest and others. And he told me about one time he put the hidden transmitter in the middle of some aluminum bleachers by a sports field. Yeah, and so it was like radiating off the sides of the thing, but not front and back, and it confused everybody. So
that's a good hiding spot. That's a good hiding spot. One of my favorites is up in the rafters. There's a building where the kids eat lunch, and I can put the fox up in the rafters, and so it radiates really well, and they never look up. So that's confounded a few hunters for sure. So anyways, that's good fun. Anytime you hear somebody saying, how can we get more kids involved, fox hunts I think are just a really, really great way to do that. Okay, well, unless anybody has any particular questions for me or comments or anything, I will yield the floor. And I wanted to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you so much to BVARC for all the members' help that Jeff and I have received in terms of advice and lending equipment. And we'll probably be bugging people more going forward about that stuff. But it's been a really great resource. So thanks everybody.
Yeah, Charlie,
I'm doing it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Charlie.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Couple of them. How long will the contact last? Ish.
That is a great question. it's going to depend on our acquisition, and we should be able to get really low angle acquisition. And I forget the number exactly. I think the contact is going to be 10 or 11 minutes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Assuming they find a good pass for us, yeah, it should be.
Yeah, well, that was my next question. The pass that, or you don't know when this is going to occur. Is part of that they're trying to get a pass that is almost over top of you, so you have longer time acquisition, or what?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the big reason why we don't know this far out has more to do with the astronaut schedules, because they're so busy and in between their experiments and stuff. The number of passes, because every low Earth orbit satellite goes around the planet every hour and 45 minutes or something like that. So there's lots of passes. So we could get a good pass of the ISS probably at least a couple times a day. My hope is, and our advisor suggests to us that we are going to get a greater than 45-degree pass.
There you go.
I would love to see that. I've also heard other stories where they're like, no, anything, better than 10 degrees is good enough. And I don't know, we'll see. I hope we get a nice high pass. And I think that would be.
Yeah, I hope we get one better than 80 degrees. That would be beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really cool.
Of course, our antenna would be severe overkill for that, but but it's about eking out that extra minute, 90 seconds. So
Yeah, it's all about the performance on the horizons, to make the contact a little bit longer. So
you want to talk a little about how the contact works and who's going to be talking to the astronauts in that conversation?
Oh yeah, and so I guess I didn't really explain this fully, but the contact is entirely between the students and the astronauts. So Jeff and I, and probably one or two other hams, will help facilitate this. And the kids are going to write questions in the classroom ahead of time that they're going to be thinking about, that they want to share with the astronauts. And I'm going to be picking what I think are going to be the most interesting questions, and we're going to take about 10 of those kids, and they're going to ask as many questions as they can in 10 minutes. And the astronauts will be prepped. They'll have some time to think about it ahead of time, but the kids will actually be on the mic and, asking them why graham crackers aren't allowed in space or something like that. And I mean, I'm sure they are, but they'll come up with some great questions.
And they all get QSL cards.
Right. Yeah, and they'll get QSL cards from space.
So are we allowed to come visit at that time?
That's not 100% clear right now how we're gonna do seating and who's gonna be sitting like right in that area. What I do know is that we'll be live streaming the event. So regardless, it'll definitely be out on the internet, and it's not clear. Yeah, like I said, it's not clear how we're going to do seating and how much space we're going to have for the students, but we're going to try to fit as many people as we can in there. And I would definitely want to give some preference to ham operators who want to come visit. It's going to be a really cool event.
Is it on a simplex channel?
That's
Yes.
correct. Yeah.
And
Single
it's
frequency.
The downlink will be the standard ISS voice
Right,
downlink.
right.
They're gonna give us a super secret uplink, right? It's like a non-standard split.
Okay, so it's not a simple, it's a full duplex situation then.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
No, it's not duplex. So
It's not duplex. Yeah.
Yeah, so duplex for satellites, the duplex contact is typically you'll have a VHF frequency and a UHF frequency, and one will be your downlink and one will be your uplink. So for this, when when you're talking, you cannot, you're not.
All
how
right.
should I
It's all on 2 meters then.
Yeah,
It's not, okay. All right.
we're
well,
gonna
that
program it
explains
like it's a repeater, basically.
He only
and
had,
it'll
he only
be-
showed 1 in 10 of that, put it all on 2 meters.
Yeah, and it'll be a non-standard split, and I guess it's like half duplex. With the satellite guys talk about full duplex. That's when they can like hear themselves when they're talking,
Right.
make sure that they're hitting the satellite. We won't have that unless we decide to tune the backup station to the uplink frequency or something. But another reason they give the the astronauts the questions ahead of time is so if our for whatever reason our connection to them is not very good, they or some kids still talk a little funny sometimes, or may not be used to working a microphone, may not get up close to it. The astronaut will know what they're saying.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So-
And everybody's acknowledging that it's simplex. So it's like they send their message and they say over. Astronaut sends their message, and then they say over. So it's
Cool.
it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Charlie, do you know who Daphne Rawlinson is?
No, I'm not familiar with that name.
All right. Well, I did just 25-cent tour. I'll send you an email about her. She's a vice principal in West University, and
Okay.
she is very science oriented, like you are, and she always wanted to do programs about radio and things like that. So you need to. I'll give her your contact and so forth, man. I'll let her know what you're doing. For
Yeah,
sure. So
that's
yeah,
great.
she's a club member. So
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. And anybody else, if you have, if you know of teachers who are wanting to like build out their technology program or anything like that, or they have a technology program and they want to swap ideas. I love going to visit other schools, and I love having other schools to come over and visit our makerspace. Teachers getting together and swapping ideas is always like super beneficial to everybody. So if you know any people like that, I would love to get in contact with them. So yeah, you pass my contact along, or send me theirs. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is Mark, K5MGJ. Question for you on, once you have all the equipment set up and you're doing practice run-throughs, are you going to be doing practice run-throughs, say on amateur satellites, try and get some live practice in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so we just got the tracking set up. As soon as the antenna is up on the roof, we'll be doing a bunch of practice.
We'll be limited to 2 meters though, right? So SO50, lots of SO50.
Yeah. I bet we can figure out. I bet we can figure out some way to get a UHF antenna feed coming in. We'll figure it out.
And you've got the egg beater up there.
Yep. Yeah. So I think we can make it work. But yeah, thanks, Mark. To answer your question, yeah, we'll be doing a lot of practice on amateur satellites. Yeah, which all of my kids today were coming in and they wanted to look at SatPC 32 and find out all the information about each satellite, and they wanted to look at pictures of them and see what this satellite looks like and what that satellite looks like. And yeah, we'll be playing with that a lot. So yeah,
this whole program sounds like something that needs to be documented and maybe made a standard within ARRL. I mean, it's just tremendous stuff.
Yeah, ARRL has a lot of, they do have a lot of education outreach stuff, and in terms of like lesson planning and stuff like that. Like if you have a teacher with a technology program, you say, here's how you run this class, and that's super helpful for teachers, to help them get a foot in the door set up a class. So they definitely have support out there for teachers. One resource I like a lot is called SARCnet, which is I think it's a Canadian organization, and they have all kinds of activities for the classroom. I borrow a lot of ideas out of there. So that's a great resource for if you've got a son or a daughter or grandkids, and you want to find some activities to do with them. SARCnet is a great resource. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. One of the other things that we do in the classroom that the kids really enjoy is SSTV. We will send slow scan TV images from a walkie-talkie to another walkie-talkie. This is why I use the FRS channels in my classroom. And sometimes if we're in, like this year, we've been doing a lot of classes on Zoom, and I might be in a different part of campus, and I will send the kids a picture over SSTV to their walkie-talkie in their classroom, and they really like that a lot. And it's sort of like the expectation, the tension of it, the picture getting drawn out line by line, and they're just kind of like watching it show up, wondering what it's going to be. Oh, they love it. It's really fun. So yeah, SSTV is a really fun thing you can do at home. Kids love it. It's like magic.
And the ISS on occasion spins up slow scan TV, and you can actually take a mobile phone with an app like I think it's the one I've got. It's called Robot 32 or something, and you can take a Baofeng and hold it up to your phone, let the phone listen to the audio, and it'll draw the picture on your phone. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that one's called Robot 36 for Android. I'm gonna put this in the chat.
That's probably, yeah.
There's I use MMSS TV on Windows machines, and I think Linux, and then the one that I use on Apple is something else. There's another one that's on Apple. Anyways, they work great. They're pretty user friendly, and they can just do like all these digital SSTV modes. It's awesome.
But is the AMSAT net still around? The local AMSAT net that Andy McAllister used to run? Is that still on?
It is. Yeah, they meet on Tuesdays on 145, 190, I think.
Okay. Yeah, at the end, he used to send all slow scan TV and different modes and things like that, different pictures. Yeah. Okay. You're familiar with that. Good.
I was on their meeting last week, and I don't think they sent an image. But I also discovered if you're on HF, there's like an SSTV band for HF or band, and there's I'm thinking like 14.240.
14.230.
Yeah,
14.230. Okay. Yeah, and there's tons of SSTV on there, so that's pretty interesting too.
Nobody's there right now.
Nobody's there right now.
And that's where it's usually at, though. But yeah, they send a lot of slow scan on the 1.9 machine. That's kind of normal to when you click buy, you hear the slow scan on there because they send pictures during the net.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So. Yeah.
Well, this is really exciting. Keep us posted, man. This is great stuff.
Yeah, we absolutely will, and we'll let you know about how many we're going to be able to accommodate, all that stuff. Yeah, and once we have a date and time, I'm certainly going to send that out to the Reflector, and it'll be on Facebook and all that good stuff. And if you're not able to make it, but you have a 2-meter rig, you can certainly listen to the downlink and hear them talk as they fly over.
Well, we have ways to find out where you're transmitting to.
Don't step on the kids, Rick.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, with the secret, super secret and encrypted transmission. Yeah,
Yes,
it'll be good.
it'll be. Sounds like a great project for y'all. Good. Thanks. Appreciate it, Charlie.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening and being here. And we'll update you once we get a little bit further along. Maybe once we have the station all built, because that'll be kind of interesting, seeing all the redundancy parts and stuff like that, and backup power and so on and so forth.
Have you given any thought? I mean, I know you only need the one antenna to do your project, but why not have a UHF VHF combo so you could be playing the amateur satellites if you wanted to for practice and all, and the UHF antenna isn't going to affect you at all when you're doing your ISS deal.
You're right. And we have space on the crossboom on the other side. I think what I might do is try to just like find another antenna, or I might just build one. I built several of the cheap Yagi antennas. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with those, but they're really quick to build and they work just fine. And
Could you repeat that? GP what?
So I'm sorry, cheap, CHEAP.
Oh,
I'm not
cheap,
sure.
cheap.
Yeah, and that's the official name for them. And I forget the call sign of the guy that invented them. But what's great about them is the matching network is like a hairpin match that's also part of the not the director, not the reflector, but the
Driven element.
the driven element. Thank you. Yeah. And so that's like so that's its own little like funky thing that seems like it wouldn't work that well, but it's great for if you're not doing like super high precision work. And then the rest of the antenna is I like to take a piece of common board and run it through the table saw, and I get these nice 3/4 by 3/4 square beams. And then you can pop some 1/8 inch holes in there at the right measurements, and then you can put welding rod or copper wire down through those holes, and that's it. You're pretty much done. There's solder some coax on there, and then you're done. And that's a cheap Yagi. So I highly recommend those. So yeah, it would make sense to put a UHF antenna on there. There's space for it, so we'll do that soon. Okay, my friends. Well, I will let y'all get on with your meeting, and feel free to.
Oh, this is the meeting. This is pretty much it.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions for Charlie before he runs off to take care of babies? Anybody? Anything? Charlie, thank you very much for coming out and doing this, and
Absolutely.
thanks for what you do at the school. On a personal note, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you. And if anybody has any thoughts or questions, or something comes to mind and you want to email me, you can contact me on my call sign at gmail.com. Let me put that in the chat. KG5QNO at gmail.com. So, alrighty. Thanks, folks. Y'all have a great evening, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.